When people think about the future of space exploration, which cities usually come to mind? Cape Canaveral, Houston, perhaps Los Angeles? Rarely does Jacksonville enter that conversation, yet in Northeast Florida, discussions are unfolding that could quietly position this city within the next chapter of the American space economy. Not as a launch site competing with Kennedy Space Center, and not as a dramatic rocket backdrop for televised countdowns, but as something more strategic and aligned with Jacksonville's existing strengths. The conversation centers on Cecil Spaceport, the long-term vision of the Jacksonville Aviation Authority, and the rapidly growing demand for spacecraft re-entry and runway landing operations. When those elements are viewed together, the idea of Jacksonville participating meaningfully in aerospace no longer feels speculative. It begins to look like logical extension. Cecil Spaceport operates at Cecil Airport on Jacksonville's west side, a property with deep aviation roots that date back to its time as Naval Air Station Cecil Field. The infrastructure was built for scale: long, durable runways capable of supporting large aircraft, expansive controlled airspace, industrial zoning, and direct highway connectivity. This is not a compact municipal airport surrounded tightly by dense residential neighborhoods. It is a wide-open aviation and industrial footprint designed for heavy-duty operations. Today, Cecil functions as a multi-use complex housing maintenance facilities, aerospace tenants, military units, and cargo operations. Its designation as a spaceport, however, opens a different door, one tied specifically to horizontal launch concepts and spacecraft re-entry. That distinction is important. The conversation is not about vertical rocket launches, like those conducted along Florida's east coast. Instead, it centers on reusable spacecraft that depart Earth, complete missions, and then return for runway landings similar to the former Space Shuttle program. As private aerospace firms continue refining reusable vehicle technology to reduce mission costs and increase frequency, the demand for diversified landing and re-entry sites grows. Weather variability, airspace management, safety buffers, and scheduling flexibility all influence where vehicles can safely and efficiently return. Cecil's infrastructure, particularly its long runways and manageable surrounding airspace, positions it as a compelling candidate for such operations. The Jacksonville Aviation Authority's strategic interest in targeting spacecraft re-entry reflects awareness of a broader national shift. The global space economy is expanding at a pace that extends well beyond government-funded missions. Private companies are investing in satellite deployment, commercial payload transport, defense-related aerospace contracts, and even early-stage space tourism concepts. As mission frequency increases, the need for additional certified landing sites grows in tandem. Concentrating all activity in a single region creates bottlenecks and operational risk. Diversification enhances resilience. Jacksonville's geography offers an operational alternative without straying far from Florida's established aerospace ecosystem. The city sits north of Cape Canaveral, yet remains within the same state infrastructure framework. It offers distinct weather patterns and airspace configurations that could complement existing facilities rather than compete directly with them. Moreover, Jacksonville already possesses aviation expertise, maintenance and repair capabilities, logistics networks, and a workforce skilled in industrial operations. The presence of Naval Air Station Jacksonville and Naval Station Mayport reinforces a defense-oriented environment compatible with aerospace expansion. When combined with Cecil's available land and industrial tenants, the concept of layering space-related operations onto existing aviation infrastructure appears less like science fiction and more like calculated growth. Economic implications follow naturally. Aerospace operations require engineers, technicians, safety personnel, logistics coordinators, and administrative staff. They stimulate demand for component suppliers, research collaboration, and specialized training programs. If Cecil were to attract consistent spacecraft re-entry operations, the ripple effects could extend across Jacksonville's broader business ecosystem. Technical colleges and universities might adapt curricula toward aerospace disciplines. Industrial parks could see heightened interest. Venture capital might begin exploring local startups tied to advanced manufacturing or supply chain innovation. The economic multiplier effect of high-tech industries tends to be significant because they demand specialized services and create higher wage employment opportunities. Beyond economics, perception carries weight. Cities associated with innovation attract talent differently than those perceived solely as traditional logistics hubs or coastal lifestyle markets. Even modest recognition within the aerospace sector would signal ambition. It would place Jacksonville in a forward-looking category, appealing to STEM professionals evaluating career options and companies assessing expansion locations. Pragmatism remains essential. Establishing Jacksonville as a credible participant in the space economy would require regulatory approvals, federal coordination, safety certifications, private sector contracts, and sustained operational demand. It would not materialize overnight. Yet the strategy does not depend on reinventing the city. It builds upon assets already in place. Jacksonville's scale, the largest land area of any city in the contiguous United States, provides spatial buffers that aerospace operations value. Clear safety corridors and controlled airspace are easier to manage when development is not pressed tightly against runway edges. Cecil's West Side location offers breathing room along with efficient connections to Interstate 10 and Interstate 295, facilitating ground transport for components and equipment. Logistics remains one of Jacksonville's defining strengths. Jacksport supports significant cargo throughput, while rail and highway infrastructure interconnect efficiently. Aerospace manufacturing and maintenance rely heavily on diversified supply chains. Proximity to port facilities, rail lines, and highways enhances operational flexibility. The broader Florida aerospace landscape also supports the case. As private companies continue pushing reusable rocket technology and orbital mission capacity, infrastructure redundancy becomes valuable. Additional landing sites reduce weather-related disruptions and scheduling conflicts. Maintenance operations can be distributed across facilities. Testing and refurbishment can occur closer to landing points. If Jacksonville were to secure even a modest share of this ecosystem, it would insert itself into a high-growth industry characterized by clustering effects. Aerospace suppliers tend to gravitate toward anchor operations. Skilled labor pools deepen as firms hire locally. Research partnerships emerge between companies and educational institutions. What might begin as occasional reentry operations could expand into maintenance hangars, testing labs, or component manufacturing facilities over time. There is also a national security dimension intertwined with aerospace growth. Defense contracting and advanced aviation are increasingly connected. Florida already plays a substantial role in military operations and defense industries. Expanding aerospace infrastructure in Jacksonville would complement existing military installations and potentially attract federal collaboration. Training pipelines could align with emerging aerospace needs. Cross-sector innovation could strengthen between defense contractors and commercial aerospace firms. Looking several years ahead, one could envision a scenario where Cecil Spaceport becomes recognized as a reliable landing option for reusable spacecraft. Aerospace companies might establish satellite offices nearby. Local students might pursue aerospace engineering or advanced manufacturing pathways, knowing that opportunity exists within their own city. Headlines might include references not only to port expansion or downtown redevelopment, but to space logistics and innovation. Such a trajectory is not guaranteed, but it is plausible. The objective is not to replace Kennedy Space Center as a vertical launch powerhouse. It is to complement Florida's space ecosystem by carving out a niche aligned with Jacksonville's infrastructure strengths, particularly horizontal launch concepts and reentry capabilities. The space economy encompasses more than dramatic rocket ascents. It includes landing, refurbishment, maintenance, research, logistics, and supply chain coordination. Cities that grow strategically identify emerging sectors and position themselves early. They leverage existing assets rather than chasing incompatible ambitions. By targeting spacecraft reentry operations, the Jacksonville Aviation Authority signals awareness of an evolving industry and intent to compete where logical advantage exists. Jacksonville has historically thrived by building around movement, shipping, rail, aviation, and highway connectivity. Space operations, in many ways, represent an extension of that identity. The runway infrastructure is already present. The industrial zoning exists. The logistics network is established. Conversations are underway. Whether Jacksonville ultimately becomes a recognized aerospace node depends on execution, partnerships, and sustained demand. Yet the groundwork suggests that the idea is neither random nor unrealistic. It reflects a city evaluating its strengths and considering how they intersect with the next frontier of transportation and technology. I'm Luke Christmas, and it's always Christmas when you work with Christmas Homes.